So let's talk for a minute about a few of the downsides of probate. First is pretty straightforward. Probates are court proceedings, and what that means is that they're public. The statutes say that any interested person can go in and take a look at a probate file. And so, if a person passes away and you're wondering whether that person has a probate going on, you can go down to the county where the person passed away and ask to see that probate file, and they'll give it to you. And you can take a look at the person's will, you can take a look at the inventory and appraisal of assets. You can basically read through and figure out what that person had and where it's going. A lot of people view that as an invasion of their privacy. The second major downside of probate is that probates, like most court proceedings, take a really long time. Now, we do probates as part of our practice. If we have a client come in and they've had a parent pass away and the parent didn't have a plan or all the parent had was a will, we can take that estate through probate. But what we generally tell clients is that probate is going to take somewhere between 8 months and 2 years. And that's for an uncontested probate where everybody agrees on where stuff is going to go. Now, most of that time is spent sitting around doing nothing. There are a whole bunch of statutory waiting periods in a probate. We file the probate petition, and then usually there's about 6 weeks before we get a hearing. Once the hearing is held and the person has been appointed as the administrator or the executor of the estate, then there's a 4-month waiting period while we sit around and wait for creditors to show up. During that time, usually you can do your inventory and appraisal and do other things like that, but all that stuff has to be approved, it has to be reviewed, and all of that stuff takes time. The third major downside is probably the biggest one for a lot of people, though, and that's that probates are very expensive. Probate fees are statutory, and those are the fees that are paid to the attorney. They're also paid to the executor of the estate if the executor chooses to take fees, and they're based on a percentage of the gross value of the estate. It starts at 4%. It's 4% of the first $100,000 of value, it's 3% of the next $100,000 of value, and then it's 2% of every 100 after that, up to about $1.5 million. And then they've got another formula that they use. So the example I always use is, let's say that you've got a house that needs to go through probate, and that house is worth $300,000. To take that house through probate, it's going to cost you 4 plus 3 plus 2. It's going to cost you $9,000 in attorney's fees. And if you have an executor who's also taking fees, you can double that. So it'll cost you $18,000 basically to have the probate court rubber stamp a deed for you. So not a great deal for people. And the important thing to recognize about probate fees is that they're based on what's called the gross value of the estate, which is the value of the estate not counting encumbrances like mortgages or other debts. And so if you've got a $300,000 house with a $280,000 mortgage, you're not going to be paying probate fees on the $20,000 of equity. You're going to be paying probate fees on the full $300,000 of value. So sometimes we have situations where people come in, and by the time they sell the house and pay the realtor fees and they pay the probate fees and everything else, they wind up underwater on the house. And so it doesn't make a lot of sense to go through a probate in that situation because it's so expensive.